All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Invitation to Lead New Presidents and Vice Presidents Training. My name is Amanda Strickland. I am the Director of Vincent Services at the Council Office. I think most of you are familiar with the structure and what the council is and our offices, but we will briefly review that later today. So if you're not sure, but recognizing most of you on here as somewhat familiar, I believe. So please let us know later if you have questions about any of that in my role. I am joined today by our Chief Mission Officer. He's going to co-host with me, Jerry Veltri. Many of you probably know him as well. He's been visiting conference meetings and district meetings, like I don't know how many this year already, probably 50 conferences.
No, not many, but we're over 30.
30,
We're about
okay.
35, and obviously more to go.
So he joins us today as a past president of the St. Jude's Conference. So he's great to be on here when we get to our question and answer section. He has a lot more firsthand knowledge than I do, and especially visiting all these conferences lately, he knows some other best practices and can help us get through some of the questions that you might have. So thank you, Jerry. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Everybody is on mute right now. I would ask that you remain on mute for most of the presentation. You can put your questions in the chat room and we will address them either as we go, if time permits, or at the end. We're not going to take any formal breaks. We're going to try to get through this on our lunch break here and be done around 1:30. And Jerry will lead us in an opening prayer, just like we do for all St. Vincent de Paul meetings. And
Thanks.
You can remain on mute and read along with him, please.
Thanks, Amanda. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Noble St. Vincent de Paul, beloved servant of the poor, may we follow your example and do good works among those whom society has abandoned, enslaved, or forgotten. Inspire us to feed the hungry, to love a child, to provide comfort and medicine to the sick, to clothe those whose garments are threadbare, and to offer hope and our Lord's words to all who need respite. Pray for us to our beloved God, that we may commit ourselves selfishly to doing the same charitable acts that you did all your life, and intercede with him that we may have the favor of his guidance and strength and love upon this important and meaningful work. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, so today we are going to cover more of what it is to be a servant leader in the society. It's going to be a hybrid of some pre-recorded video from our the National Leadership Task Force. They did a servant leadership webinar last year while we were doing everything virtually. So we're going to incorporate some of their presentation for that part. And they'll also be covering the 7 duties of the conference president. And then Jerry and I will cover a few slides about the society and where we fit in as a council here in Georgia, and then drill it down to your conference level. We hope to provide some practical insight later toward the end of how you can really jump into your new president role, or how as a vice president you can support your president and some of their responsibilities as well. So just to give you an idea, we have a mix of presidents and vice presidents on today. And we also have Kay Harris, who's a treasurer. I sent you a electronic version of this president's booklet. We do have them hard copy in stock. So if you would like one mailed to you, please just send me a message with your mailing address and I will get that out. Sometimes your past president might pass theirs on, but it's probably marked up or notations in there. So you probably want a copy of your own, but you can access it on the electronic version as well. So you'll see, I'm sorry, my dog is just loving on me today. You'll see once you read the conference president's handbook that they go through the 7 duties of a conference president, and then they also go through 5 goals of the conference president. So we're not going to cover the goals today. It is in the booklet. And then there's also a follow-up webinar that's pre-recorded that you can watch on your own time to go through those goals. We're not going to, usually this presentation is a Saturday presentation that we would be able to cover it, but because it's a virtual webinar, we're not going to take up that much time. An hour and a half is kind of our max. All right, so we're gonna jump right in. I'm gonna get rid of my dog during this video. We're gonna jump into about a 20-minute video that covers servant leadership, and we'll go from there. Check the chat real quick. Charles messaged me that his dog's all over him too. We've gotta love them. All right.
The Vincentian tradition of servant leadership. There'll be more that will be said about this in future webinars for conference presidents. But it's important from the start that all conference presidents realize that they are called to be servant leaders. And our rule is very clear about this. In fact, Rule Part 3, Statute 11 says the following.
Leadership positions in the society at any level are always to be accepted as service to Christ, the members, and the poor. Servant leadership is done in imitation of Jesus, who said, "For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and give his life as a ransom for many."
Notice the servant leader symbol or picture. It's Christ washing the feet of his apostles. That is a perfect image of what we as servant leaders should be. Not officious, not overbearing, not the boss, but someone who is a servant to others. Again, you see the Vincentian tradition of servant leadership. In this case, it's our rule, Part 1, 3.11, which talks about presidents as servant leaders.
Following Christ's example, the presidents at all levels of the society endeavor to be servant leaders. They provide an encouraging atmosphere in which the talents, capacities, and spiritual charism of the members are identified, developed, and put to the service of the poor and the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. The president of the conference or council will have special responsibility for promoting Vincentian spirituality.
You may notice that at the bottom of the slide, there's references to pages from the Vincentian Leadership Guidelines for Conference President. You'll see that throughout this webinar. The webinar itself is based upon this document, and the page references in the slides will be to that resource. That resource can be found online. You were sent a link to that, and perhaps you downloaded it, or a hard copy of the document is also available from the national office. You're looking at the Vincentian Servant Leadership Cross, and you can see at the bottom of the cross a link towards the Pathway toolbox where it is located and where a number of resources involved with it are located. I think it's extremely important for you to understand that this cross tells us who we are. It includes our 3 essential elements. Spirituality, we grow in holiness together. Friendship, we have solidarity with one another and with those we serve. And service, and the spirituality and friendship inform our service. It's not one or the other. The 3 are intimately linked. You can join organizations that encourage you to grow in spiritual holiness. You can also join organizations that encourage service, and you can join organizations of friendship. But it is the intimate link of these 3 that make us Vincentians. You can also see that the center of the cross is Christ. And around Christ is our charism, Vincentian charism, our heritage, and our rule. Everything radiates from that out through these three essential elements. And if we follow these three essential elements, and if we stay close to Christ, then we can become solid servant leaders. The Vincentian formation pathway is something you should consider as you go forward as a leader. It will help you in the process of discovering, developing, deepening, and discerning your commitment as a leader to the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. There are 7 duties of conference presidents. And we're going to look today at each of those 7 duties and what each of them entails. Duty 1 is commitment. As a conference president, you make a solemn commitment to do a number of things, and they are listed here. The first 3, I think, are the most important. Grow in understanding. Support the mission of the society. Foster the spirituality, because without those 3, the other 4 that are listed here would never be achieved. We're going to look more closely at these elements of this first duty commitment in the following slides. Understanding our mission. We have a new mission statement. Our new mission statement was adopted by the National Council of the United States in 2018. Listen carefully and closely to the words of this new mission statement.
A network of friends inspired by gospel values, growing in holiness and building a more just world through personal relationships with and service to people in need.
A mission statement says what we do. Our identity statement says who we are. And we'll look next at our identity statement. The identity statement is long. It, in fact, was many years ago our original mission statement. It still serves an important purpose because, again, it tells us who we are. And you can see the key elements here. Catholic lay, women and men. Women came into the society in 1969, so it's been more than 50 years now. We grow spiritually. And how do we do that? Person-to-person service. And we look to Blessed Frederick Ozanam, our principal founder, and our patron saint, St. Vincent de Paul. We call ourselves Vincentians. We're part of a larger Vincentian community worldwide. That is, in fact, why you see the international logo at the bottom of this slide. We come from every background, and we are not just a national, we are an international organization. And most importantly, prayer and reflection is what nourishes us. And we follow a basic rule, something we'll be talking about more in a few minutes. We embrace all works of charity and justice. We collaborate with others. And we make no distinction in those we serve, because the fundamental root of Vincentian spirituality is that we see the face of Christ in others. Take a moment and look at these words of Pope Francis. What really stands out for you in these words? For me, the phrase that jumps out immediately is, in the poor, we see the face of Christ. That is indeed part of our Vincentian charism and our Vincentian spirituality. I think this quotation highlights in a dramatic way how Pope Francis is very much in tune with Vincentians. Seeing the face of Christ in others is an essential feature of who we are. You're looking here at our three essential elements. In fact, the 1858 manual indicated that spirituality, friendship, and service were the key elements of who we are as Vincentians. It said in that 1858 manual to bear witness to Christ and to his church by showing that the faith of Christians inspires them to work for the good of their fellow human beings, to bring together men and women of goodwill, and to assist them by mutual example and true friendship to draw nearer to their divine model, Jesus Christ, by fulfilling his commandment, namely the love of God and their fellow man. And thirdly, to establish a personal contact between its members and those who are suffering, and to bring to the suffering the most efficacious and brotherly aid possible. I like to use the three words because of alliteration: sanctification, solidarity, and service. But fundamentally, it's the same as 1858. These are the three fundamental elements that make us Vincentians, and to which we should always be faithful. You're looking here at our cultural beliefs. They appear in Statute 2, Part 3 of our rule. These beliefs are relevant to how conferences work together for the good of all. What we believe, our cultural beliefs, dictates how we act, dictates our actions. And these cultural beliefs are linked also to our rule. So take a look at the top of the chart. It says spiritual growth. That cultural belief is stated in this way: I grow in holiness through my prayer, Vincentian service, and friendship. And that's rooted in our rule, Part 1, 2.2. Vincentians are called to journey together in holiness, because true holiness is perfect union with Christ and the perfection of love, which is central to their vocation and the source of its fruitfulness. One society. I contribute to the success of our Vincentian work when I support one society. And that's based upon our rule, 1.3.3. Spiritual bonds and friendship between members are essential, as is the common mission to help the poor and marginalized. Servant leadership, or leaders. I develop myself and others to become servant leaders. Following Christ's example, the presidents at all levels endeavor to be servant leaders. We saw that particular part of the rule just a few moments ago. Rule 1, 3.11. Today's society. I strengthen the society by embracing new and diverse ideas and people. This comes from our rule, Part 1, 1.3. No work is foreign to the society. It includes any form of help that relieves suffering or deprivation and promotes human dignity and personal integrity in all of their dimensions. Embrace accountability. The belief is I belong to and will build a strong society by holding myself and others accountable to our mission, the essential elements in good governance. We'll say more about accountability later in this presentation. And that's certainly based on the rule Part 3, Statute 5, which pertains particularly to the United States Vincentians. After prayerful consideration of all circumstances involved, Vincentians should apply themselves to their maximum ability in fulfillment of the mission and essential elements of the society. Inclusive planning. I foster ownership by involving membership in planning and decision making. Again, it's based on our rule. Part 3, Statute 22. At least once a year, each conference must evaluate their service to the members, to the poor, the effectiveness of their special works, and explore ways to provide better service. They should also consider new types of needs they may seek to alleviate and how to find those who are in need. And finally, advocate for justice. I advocate with the poor for just policies and practices at local and state, national levels. A voice for the voiceless. The society helps the poor and disadvantaged speak for themselves. When they cannot, the society must speak on behalf of those who are ignored. This is in the rule, part 1, 7.5, and it also references Voice of the Poor, which we'll mention briefly in just a moment.
Duty 2 is comprehension. As Vincentians, we must comprehend the rule of the society, the essential structure, and the life and spiritual legacy of our founders. Note the two ways of looking at the rule. It should not be viewed as a burden, but rather as an essential guidepost. Without the rule's direction, we can easily get lost. It is the tool or guide that puts us in the right direction, and the less we respect it and use it, the more astray we go. It is the only thing that keeps us on a proper Vincentian course. That is what is meant by the rule being a guidepost. It is not just a recommendation, but an essential part of who we are as a society. Our rule, Part 3, Statute 3, indicates that the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in the United States has two types of membership: active members and associate members. Active means full membership. Active members are those who participate regularly in the prayer life, meetings, and charitable activities through personal contact with the poor of the Vincentian Conference or Council into which they have been received. An active member accepts the rule and statutes of the society, belongs to the Catholic Church, and is received as a Vincentian brother or sister into the society's conference or council with which he or she is affiliated. Normally, membership implies conference affiliation. Less commonly is membership obtained through direct council affiliation. Only active members hold office in the organization. Associate members are those affiliated with the society by formal action of the conference or council with which the member will be joined. Associate members include those who sincerely and publicly accept the society's rule, but may or may not belong to the Catholic Church, and may or may not attend conference meetings, or engage in the works of the society on a regular basis. Associate members are kept informed of the developments and activities of their immediate groupings, as well as the general progress of the society, particularly in the local area or diocese. They are invited to attend the general meetings and special observances of the society and to participate in its charitable activities.
All right. So just to piggyback and continue through the comprehension duty 2, just want to, you might have seen this slide if you recently attended Ozanam orientation, or maybe Jerry came out to a conference meeting or something. But just to kind of give you a scope of where we fit in as an organization, a state organization within the nation. You can see there throughout the US, there's 4,600 conferences. It drills down to 300 district councils. Atlanta, we are considered one of the 54 diocesan councils. We are the Archdiocesan Council, Archdiocese of Atlanta Archdiocesan Council in the Southeast region. And you can see then it goes down or drills up to kind of an international council over 150 countries. So that just gives you a scope of how we fit in nationally and internationally. And then here in Georgia, we're called we interchange the terms. Call us the Georgia Council because we do serve the whole state of Georgia, because there's two archdioceses in Georgia, the Savannah Diocese and the Atlanta Diocese. We started out as just having conferences in the Atlanta Diocese, but now we have adopted the two conferences that are in the Savannah Diocese. So we are truly able to say we serve the entire state for St. Vincent de Paul. So out of those, we have 73 conferences. So we have 73 conference presidents. Thank you so much. I did not even say thank you yet, but thank you for accepting the role of president. Hopefully the servant leadership portion that you just saw gives you a better perspective of how important it is to take on that role. I'm also going to share some resources later on how to help you delegate some of your responsibilities. And you can see we have a council president. His name is Mike Neese. He just came in last year. So he's got a 3-year term ahead of him. And we have 9 district presidents, and we have one of them on today, District 4, Charles Jones. We have a recently new, well, it's almost, I think, coming up on a year now, actually, a new CEO at the council, Patrick McNulty. You might have seen him on some of the town hall meetings. If you have not met him yet, please feel free to set up a meeting and get to know him. And then we have the Conference Support Center that he kind of oversees as the CEO, and of which Jerry and I are staff members at, along with about 20 other staff members. This is how we look on the map. You can see all of these shaded counties are counties with Catholic churches, and then in perspective, everywhere you see a blue dot is where we have a conference. Some of those Catholic churches do not have a conference yet, and that is part of our role at the council, is to grow conferences in those areas and start new conferences or revitalize some of those conferences. And you can see this is just a map of Middle and North Georgia, but we do have the 2 conferences down in the Archdiocese of Savannah. The map just doesn't show those counties. And then you can see also where we have family support centers, which is typically a center where clients can come, and usually it consists of a food pantry, some type of meeting space to do casework at. Some of them have a computer lab open for resume building, job searches, and things like that. And then the green dots represent the 11 thrift stores that we have. And then on the left side here, you can see how many, we're split up into 9 districts, and you see how many conferences are in your district. Hopefully you all know which district you belong to. If you don't, please put in the chat so we can let you know. But as presidents, you are part of the district leadership as a conference president, so you should be attending district meetings with all of the conference presidents in your district. So hopefully you, upon joining, you either have attended your first district meeting already as president, or you have an upcoming one. I think a lot of them have been happening in the last month or 2, so you probably have. All right, and Jerry's gonna cover the next couple of slides that just give you a scope of what we are actually doing here in Georgia. Jerry?
Thank you, Amanda. Again, I've been a conference president, been a Vincentian for 10 years. And as Amanda said, we really appreciate you taking on the role as your servant leader for your conference. I found it to be one of the most fulfilling roles and vocations in my entire career, even my business career, because you get to work with some great folks at the conference level. They're always willing to work with you. and you are one in spirit with them. So as part of your focus as a servant leader, you become a focal point a lot of times for many of the members. You're kind of the clearinghouse, and many times they'll be coming to you for advice, counsel, or pointing you in certain directions. And so you don't necessarily have to have all the answers. You can come back to us at any time, and we'd be happy to help you. But you should be very familiar with what we have to offer from a conference support center standpoint, because you can provide that type of support to them. And in many respects, they will not know it as much as you will. And that's where you provide a lot of value to the Vincentians within your conference. So we do at the Conference Support Center offer a lot of services and programs. First and foremost, we're here to support you. We're here to help you with training, with materials. That's what Amanda and I do. We're here to answer questions for you, provide that type of support, and that's in the whole area of conference formation and support. The next is, and many of you, your conferences have taken advantage of it, is we do provide grant assistance, especially in this last year where we've received a lot of different municipal government or not even non-government grants where there was some kind of administrative requirement. We actually go out there, we acquire these grants, we acquire these funds, and then we work with the local conferences. And in the last 12, 18 months, we've acquired over $2.5 million. We've run about 15 programs. And these are just strictly grants that eventually made the money's funds out to you in the conferences. And so it requires some administrative task on our part because we are the 501c3. We are requiring, and in fact, I just got notification that there's an extra amount of scrutiny for us this year because of the amount of federal funds we've received. And so we'll be spending time with our auditors to ensure that we stayed in compliance, we stay as a valid 501c3, and let you do what you want to do, which is help those in need. We also provide the case management system support, CMS, as you know. We also reach out and try to develop alliances on your behalf. We become the clearinghouse for that. Usually it's with large foundations or large entities. I was on the phone today with Southern Company Gas because we're working with them on some additional grant money. So we also reach out to them and we'll provide that type of information out to you in the way of town halls or communications to let you know there are other resources out there that are available to you. And then again, we're working on the connected classroom. This in many respects is our connected classroom, but we also have it set up that we can do hybrid. And we'll be working on that as the COVID restrictions start lifting more and more. That's a lot of the services. There's other services we provide, but that's the meat. On the program side, many of you take advantage of the fact that we run our own food pantry and we have our own food distribution. So we then turn around and collect food and send it back out to many of the 40 food pantries out there in our statewide network. One of the things that we're very, very pleased with is our community pharmacy. It's a statewide effort. And again, our intent is to be relevant to all of our conferences across the state. As Amanda said, we have a lot of conferences. We cover a lot of areas. We hope to cover even more over time, but we still have the mission to be relevant to all of our conferences. And so community pharmacy is one of those where we literally will support anybody in the state and we'll find ways to get them maintenance medication. So I think many of you have signed up for it or you know about it. If you don't, let me throw another plug, and that is go to our member website. Our member website has a lot of information. And if it doesn't have the information, then you can come to Amanda and I, and we'd be happy to help you. But community pharmacy is one that we're now up to over 700, getting close to 800 prescriptions a month of free maintenance medication that we provide to our neighbors in need. We also run a SNAP referral. We also run the VITA, which is tax. We help people with their taxes. We also provide the marketing communications out there. You know, hopefully you get onto LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We're out there trying to give you guys air cover to explain to people who St. Vincent de Paul is and what our mission is and why and the type of impact that we have throughout the state. Some of the other programs that we have, and you could read these, is high interest program, mattress program. Very focused right now on the motel to home program, or what we're really calling enhanced housing. More than just helping somebody with temporary financial assistance, but how can we enhance that experience and enhance that service to them? And then we're starting to work on various workforce development to help people find jobs or improve their jobs. And I'll leave it to that. The truth is we have some future things that we're working on. And Amanda will probably, I think she's covering the strategic initiatives as part of our strategic initiatives. We're going through a whole rationalization of our programs and services. And we will make sure that it falls through the filter that it's relevant to you and it helps you in your mission of serving those in your community. Amanda, you want to? So I'm still on this one, right, Amanda? So just to let you know, we do a lot down here. As Amanda said, we have a staff of 25. That doesn't include the staff that's sitting out in the thrift stores. But we take in many calls that we redirect. We run the helpline that many of you leverage. We also take in quite a few through our website, request or information. So we provide that. We talked about the pharmacy, talked about the food distribution. I mean, we're running about 20 tons of frozen meat and produce through our facility in service to our food pantries. Believe it or not, if you come down here, and again, this is an open opportunity to come and tour our facility. We have a new revamped facility where we added additional square footage, about 25,000 square feet we have here of space for not just staff, but for many of the support functions that we execute here. Offer it up as a conference president. If you want to have a tour for your conference and run a conference meeting here, we'd be happy to host you. We've done it for several. And as part of it, what I wanted to get across is we're not just a conference support center, but we're also an outreach center here too. We get on average about 80 neighbors in need a day just come walking in and take food. We literally have shelves sitting in our lobby with food and just allow people to come in and take it. So, or they'll come in and we will spend some time doing some what I would consider limited casework with them, because we don't provide direct financial assistance. You do that. What we do is we'll provide other types of in-kind assistance for them. So, and like I said, finishing it up, part of our mission is to keep you current, to keep you informed. And we do that now through various training sessions, whether that's Asanam training, leadership training, spirituality training, and various. So, Amanda?
Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, so we just wanted to cover that because as a conference president, almost probably guaranteed at some point a member will ask you, what is the council and what do they do? Or council, or they might call us conference support center, downtown, headquarters. So we just want to make sure that you understand exactly how we're able to support you guys at the conference level, and then really the whole scope of how we're actually serving the state and different programs and services. So hopefully that helped you understand better. And we'll take questions about it at the end if you need some further clarification.
We don't like, when we don't like downtown and we don't like headquarters, because that's not what we are. So,
Yes, that is right. And really those slides are meant to help understand, the question usually comes up when you're reporting the solidarity payment in a meeting, and they're like, well, what are we paying that for? So hopefully that just can give you some context to let them know, where that money's going. Because we understand that they want it all, we want it all to go to the right place to ultimately help the poor, but there's just systems in place to run an organization this large. And hopefully all will appreciate the other side of it. As he mentioned, we come to us for anything that you might need as a president. The most typical things are like if you experience any issues with your helpline, contact us. We work directly with the phone system and updates to your, to your boundaries or your zip codes. We are a zip code based organization. So sometimes maybe your volume is too much or too little and you have to make adjustments that way. Definitely for collateral material, especially when you're doing recruitment. I think most of you have been on the list. We recently sent out a membership development toolkit and resources that you can use to do membership recruitment called Invitation to Serve. And a new member welcome packet was included with that. Hopefully you all received it. I will, just in case you're coming in brand new in the last couple of weeks and you did not receive that email, I'm going to attach those resources to a follow-up email to today's training. We also work directly with our CMS user group, Jerry and I, and the developers. So we help manage that CMS support community and facilitate different trainings with John Pepe, who does all of those trainings. I recently introduced the national database to conference secretaries, and some of you were on that as well. So that's a database in addition to CMS that we have to keep updated now. So if you do not know the procedures for doing that, please let me know and I'll forward you the information for that. Other things, the guidelines, we'll talk about that in a second. And then just as Jerry touched on, all formation and educational events, we are the ones kind of coordinating all of that. So we are your first stop. If you have questions, please contact us. If we don't know the answer, we'll point you to the correct staff member or the correct resource that you may need. So I like to say, keep us employed. This is our job, is to support you at the conference level. And between the two of us and all 73 conferences, and the member website, we hope that we can provide you with all of the tools and resources to effectively lead your conference. Mentioned earlier, we have a newly approved strategic plan. It was just approved at the October board meeting. This is kind of a summary of it. We did send out, hopefully you all received it yesterday, from our board chair, Mike Meese, and the CEO, Pat McNulty. They sent an email out to summarize the plan, and it included the detailed plan so you can kind of see where we're headed over the next 3 years. But the two main focuses are how can we support conferences, and how can, as Jerry mentioned, how can we enhance our programs and services to better serve our neighbors in need. So I just put that here to kind of get your mind rolling on that. If you did not receive that email, I'll go ahead and attach the detailed plan to the follow-up email to this training as well, so you have it. And please feel free to go over it with your conference at your next meeting. It's a good checkpoint for everybody to kind of know where we're going. And what
I just want to make note, Amanda, but what you should understand is there's a heavy emphasis of supporting the conferences. And that is a conscious decision that we're making. We're putting more and more resources to it. We do have a mission to streamline the programs and services, and we will do that rationalization with the intent that it is relevant to our conferences. But if you look at the left-hand side here, it is all focused on helping you with your leadership capabilities, your conference formation, your ability to do better home visits, and also the important mission of growing in spirituality. So very much, very, very heavily balanced, heavily pushed towards helping our conferences.
And heavily influenced by the feedback that we received from many of you. So thank you for, if you took one of our surveys earlier in the year while we were planning, getting this plan together. We really tried to make sure we listen and you are heard. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, so we are going to continue.
Duty 3 is communication.
Sorry,
Whoops.
I'll go back to that. The Leadership Task Force video is going to take us through the rest of the duties 3 through 7, and then we'll come back live.
Duty 3 is communication. As these bullets indicate, communication at all levels is essential to the health of any organization. It's pretty clear that Bart Simpson has learned a hard lesson about the importance of communication.
Duty 4 is cultivation. Cultivating our members through formation. And you can see the various ways that are suggested here. I think it's also important to note that part of the development of new members is to identify, encourage, and grow potential successors for conference president. There'll be a future webinar that will address this particular issue in more depth. I think also if you take a look at number 4, encouraging the establishment of a VOP committee, the Voice of the Poor is the advocacy arm of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, with members representing every section and demographic of the nation. We identify those issues that are critical to those living in poverty and need, help bring attention to them so communities and our elected representatives can help develop strategies and tactics that will provide the most effective and efficient means to reduce or eliminate poverty. A future webinar will actually address in more detail Voice of the Poor and systemic change processes that are also mentioned in these bullets under cultivation. There is also much information about both of these on the national website. Cultivation of our members is absolutely essential for the society to thrive and to grow into the future.
Duty 5 is collaboration. Vincentian leaders must collaborate with other conferences in the local area, within the United States or abroad, especially through twinning arrangements, with other members of the Vincentian family, including your own conference members as well. Collaborate with other individuals and nonprofits, and especially the pastor, by keeping him informed about the work of the society.
Duty 6, chairperson. Conference presidents have this duty to conduct orderly and regular meetings. And under this is also the delegation of duties. I'll say more about that in just a moment. Take a look at the chart that is to the side. Good chairs are assertive, decisive, good listeners, adaptable, diplomatic, impartial, attentive, concise. These are incredibly important traits, not only to chair a meeting, but actually important traits and characteristics for any good leader. Take a look at that second bullet that's bolded. It's bolded because it emphasizes the importance of delegation. And that is why the third bullet is so important as well. Make appropriate appointments of officers and committee members. There is a handout on delegation to address this issue that you'll be receiving. Delegate, delegate, delegate. These duties cannot be achieved if you try to do everything yourself. The fourth bullet that's presented here says facilitate and participate in discussions. Our rule clearly indicates that all decisions are made by consensus if possible, after the necessary prayer, reflection, and consultation. The democratic spirit is fundamental at all levels of the society, and when appropriate, matters are put to a vote. That is directly from our rule, Part 1, 3.10. If a vote does occur, normally the conference president will cast only one vote in the case of a tie. The rule, Statute 16, says, to ensure democracy in the society, decisions are often made by consensus. Consensus decision-making requires that everyone agree with the decision, not just a majority as occurs in majority rule processes. In consensus-based processes, people must work together to develop an agreement that is good enough, though not always necessarily perfect. In rare circumstances, if consensus cannot be reached, the decision may be put to a vote. Consensus is important. Take a look at this quote from Martin Luther King. A genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. Duty 7, contributions and compliance. Conference presidents oversee contributions to and compliance with the National Council, region, and local councils in order to do the following. You can see the 4 bullet points there. Extremely important. In terms of solidarity contributions, it's important that the conference president understand what her or his council does in relationship to those solidarity contributions to national. Take a look at bullet 2. Assure that the conference submits annual reports on time. It is extremely important to do timely and accurate reporting. This is a part of accountability. It also is important to the National Council to be able to apply for grants, and even for that matter, for conferences and local councils to be able to do that as well. We have an accountability not only to the national office, but to those we serve. And so submitting annual reports is an important thing. Notice bullet 3, facilitate and ensure compliance with diocesan and/or national council safe environment policies. Based on the concern of each diocese that children and vulnerable adults be safeguarded, the Society's National Council has passed a resolution calling for all conferences and councils in the United States to follow the rules established within their diocese for the protection of children and vulnerable adults. These programs are called by various names throughout the country, but are usually easily identifiable. The key component is that Vincentians follow the rules of the diocese in these matters unless they are otherwise instructed by the National Council. Accountability is the absolute glue that ties commitment to results. And so we can't stress enough the importance of accountability as a governance issue. As we come to the end of this first webinar for conference presidents, we provide you with ideas for delegating conference responsibilities. You can see some of those in a sheet that will be made available to you. Coordinate. The president coordinates overall activities of the conference. But you can have a vice president or vice presidents who can assume the duties and can also chair a committee or a project. And there are other suggestions with other officers. It is important as you think about these 7 duties to recognize that you are responsible for their achievement, but it doesn't mean that you are the only one to do everything. Again, the 3 key words: delegate, delegate, delegate. That's part of being an effective leader.
And I will provide that as a handout in the follow-up email as well. And I encourage you, please, even if it's going to be a new role, try to create those different positions, and so that you can be supported and the responsibilities that you have. Delegation is key. So a little bit about your conference governance. I sent you, each of you, the conference bylaws that we have on file for you. All of, you might notice that it was, your bylaws were approved and signed in 2008, which might seem old, but they are the current ones. The bylaws don't get edits very often, and they haven't since 2008. You all almost operate off this, or you do operate off the same bylaws. We have council bylaws that the conference then adopts as conference bylaws, and you sign those. So I sent you the copy of what we have on file for you now. All we ask is that you keep it, refer to it. A lot of questions that you might have for us can probably be found there, in addition to, perusing through the rule and the manual for a lot of questions. So those 3 documents are what you should kind of have on hand in your president's folder, or whatever you keep for your stuff. Keep a copy of all 3 of those documents. If you don't have a rule or a manual, they are available electronically in like a Word document or a PDF, but we can also send you a hard copy if you need one. So just let me know. Just a little bit about meetings. As a new president, you might be coming into a conference that right now I say that loosely, might just be meeting once a month, but the goal is to meet at least twice a month. So if you are only meeting once a month, please work toward that goal. They don't have to be business meetings both times. One can be more of a friendship based meeting, maybe just dinner together, or something more on a casual level. It doesn't have to talk about cases or finances or anything like that. So please keep that in mind. Conference finances, we did just do an annual reporting webinar for CMS. So I think a lot of you might be in tune with that, or your treasurer attended. But a lot of the things that we tell the treasurers and what's in the treasurer's handbook, we encourage conference presidents to also know and review it, so that you know exactly what is expected of your treasurer, because you guys work very closely together. Same for the spiritual advisor. But
Yeah, ultimately, you are approving your monthly financials and your annual report. So, you should be aware of what the treasurer is putting together. And most conferences are blessed with very good treasurers, and we do provide a lot of training, but you should be in tune and partnered with your treasurer.
if you need a copy, if you haven't seen the conference treasurer's handbook, just let me know and I'll send that over to you as well. One point on this slide here, no hoarding of funds. Just know that, we're not supposed to keep a high past our, 3-month reserve or whatever the percentage is. We're supposed to, give out all of the money that we have to the poor and not save it for a rainy day, because we believe in divine providence. And then I'll go through, I think I have some important dates to remember for those annual and monthly reports. These are the ones that Jerry just said you are signing off on, those monthly reports, and then the annual report as well. So I just wanted to include these dates here in case you haven't seen them, give you a brief summary of it. The written conference income and disbursement guidelines is probably one that you need to know and have on hand as well. Keep those, they should be reviewed every year. And then they are turned around and sent into the council office in September, just so that we know how you guys are collecting your funds and kind of your guidelines on how you're dispersing them. And I say guidelines, those are those are flexible. It's just kind of give your membership a guide, and then you guys, if there's something that arises that might be outside of those guidelines, that can be adjusted individually. Oh, there's our guidelines. Treat each case on its own merit. Again, as a new president, you're encouraged to bring up new ideas. Welcome your members to give you new ideas. There's a reason that we have 3-year terms renewable once, because new faces, new people bring in new ideas, and that's what we need to keep evolving as a society. So do not be some of you might be in a conference that has been doing things the same way for years and years and years, and you might get pushback from some of those old timer members, but we encourage you to still present new findings and new ideas to them. The conference work is to be efficacious, not necessarily efficient. It's not about, we want to focus on the quality of our service to those in need, and not just keep maybe just paying bills. And some of the programs and services and the future of the society at a council level, we're working towards supporting those that idea as well. Your conference's annual review, like I said, should be part of that annual review is those disbursement and collection guidelines. And then also, as a conference president, you should develop annual goals, just like if you've led any other organization or any other group. If you don't have a goal, you don't really know where you're going or what you're working toward. And so it's good to develop some goals for your conference. The next, I mentioned earlier, there's a follow-up webinar that was recorded last year on the 5 goals of the conference president. So you can watch that webinar, refer to that, and then go from there. And we have some conference presidents who have done these goals every year. So if you need a connection to somebody and want some ideas, please let me know. And we're almost done here, Jerry, if you want to, we've got about 25 minutes. And so we have this last slide, Jerry, if you want to go through that, and then we can open it up for Q&A.
Sure. And actually, we covered a lot of this already. We talked about the pharmacy program. We didn't talk about CMS, but for many of you know that we rolled out a new version of CMS. Been very well received. You guys are probably in the middle of year-end closing. It's got to be done by the end of this month. We just ask that you make sure that you have your volunteer hours in there. It's very important to capture that, because that's helping people with direct financial assistance or food assistance is great, but you should take recognition for the amount of sweat equity, I would call it, that you put into helping those in need, and it gets reflected in the volunteer hours. We talked about new treasurers training. Amanda has put together a great package on invitation to serve. We've seen that as a big need from the conferences. You're always looking for new members. You're always looking to bring new members in. And so we want to help you with that in how best you represent the true mission of St. Vincent de Paul, and you're getting the right individuals coming into the society. People are just not, in addition to wanting help, they also want their own spiritual growth, and they want friendship and that fraternity amongst, other members of the society. And like I said, we have a new member website. It'll be coming out soon. It's really to support you. It's to give you as much information at your fingertips to help you, help your Vincentians, help those in need. And so we'll continue to evolve that so that it becomes a very relevant tool in your toolbox of helping. I just want to make a couple comments before we finish up, and as just to support what Amanda says, as servant leaders, as conference presidents, don't put everything on your shoulders, but be very aware that you need other people to help you and work with you. As you bring in new members, right? Look to innovate. No work of charity is foreign to the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, as long as it's ethical, as long as it's legal, and it falls within the guidelines of what we do as a charitable organization that comes with Christian love. Then you should be open, and you'll find new members that will have ideas. And I encourage you as servant leaders, let them run with it. Let them figure out if there's something new that we can do to help, because that engages them. and you're helping bring on probably the next generation of leadership, within the society. Your job is so important because it's really the conference is where all the real work gets done. We do work. We do work at the Council Support Center. You guys are really at the front lines. And so it's very important that you're bringing new, energetic folks into your conference because there's so much to be done to help those people in our community. And the other thing I would say is we talked about the rule, and I use this. It's not always for you to make a decision, and sometimes it takes a little pressure off of you that the rule sometimes spells out, what the answer is. And you can refer back to the rules to your conference members. You don't always have to be King Solomon, right? You can go to the rule book and it'll talk about things like, hey, it's not one person's decision on what a conference does. You have to do it in consensus. And that's one thing that you'll find that you'll have to rely on is to point those rules out to the conference members. I mean, in fact, there's some conferences that will read a part of the rule in their conference meeting just to refresh everybody with, this is our operating model, right? This is our guidebook. So with that, Amanda, I just wanted to make those comments again. Like Amanda said, really appreciate you guys taking on this responsibility. It is great because you have great members and you let them rise to the occasion. So, Amanda?
Yeah, and I hope, sometimes we hear the joke around the society is like, I left the room and I went to the bathroom and I came back and I was, voted in as president. And I hope that as you, jump into the role that you really realize like it's not really that. We don't want you thinking like that. It's a really positive thing. You are actually chosen to be here and lead your conference. So if you can discern on that, and I have a document that I'll share about that, this is a true blessing in your Vincentian journey to say yes to that position. And we really appreciate you. And I hope that you will find that in your own time of why you were here, as Jerry said too. So we are open for now. We've got about 20 minutes. If anyone has any questions on anything that was introduced today or anything that we might not have covered, please take yourself off of mute and join in the conversation. Typically on Saturdays when we would hold this training, we would have a best practices panel of different leaders on. So yes, Jackie.
No, Marsha.
Or Marcia.
So right, for a food pantry, would you give us startup money if we wanted to start a food pantry, or would we have to do it on our own?
Well, you already have a food pantry.
No, we
No,
don't.
we don't. We had one, remember?
Okay.
And through Deacon, but he sold his business, so we're left without one.
Right.
Gotcha.
And
Well, what we would do, so Jackie, I'm not sorry, Marcia and Jackie. Right, I remember you talked about that you had a building.
right, yeah.
We would help you start up. Would love to have every conference have a food pantry, and we would work with you to get you started. We just have to figure out. But the other thing that we probably need is we would probably need to sit down with the pastor to make sure the pastor is, supportive. But ultimately, we can get you started, but then you're going to be looking for your parishioner to keep you going, right?
Okay.
We did have grant money. You have to look to see if we have other types of grant money to help you start it.
Right.
We did have some grant money in the past that we distributed. That was one of the things that we administered early on in COVID, where we received about $100,000 to send out to all the different food pantries to help them bolster themselves. Yeah, we'd be happy to help you with it.
Jerry, as far as he said, meeting with our pastor, and I wanted to be specific because we already did. we already met with our father, Liam.
Okay,
As far as anything on site, the property of St. James, he doesn't want it.
okay.
So it will have to be something off-site, like how we had it set up.
So we'd have to talk through it because we'd have to understand how you can keep it viable. I mean, there's one thing to start it up, but you know, probably have to sit down and figure out how we can make this a viable option for you guys.
Okay,
Okay.
that could work.
Yeah.
That could work.
Another option
I think
is there is one of the conferences close to you? Do they have a food pantry?
I think the closest one to us will be St. Dave's.
Okay.
Is it-
Probably.
We can
Yeah.
talk. I'd be happy to.
Oh, no,
talk
there's
to it.
one in Jonesboro too.
Oh, okay.
I think St. Mary too is in
Okay.
Jonesboro. That's probably
Yeah, you know, the objective is you want to help those
right.
in your community with food assistance. And
Right.
so
Well-
I'd be happy to sit down with you and we'll also, let's make sure we include District President Bill in on the
Yes, right,
conversation.
right.
And let's figure out how we can put a plan together. So,
Okay. Okay.
And I have 3 couches to give. Where would I give them?
are they good couches? Well, I mean,
Yes.
probably, what I
they
would
good.
suggest you do is reach out Linda Garan. She runs our warehouse. So if we can come, if it's applicable for us to come down and pick up those couches and bring it to one of the thrift stores, then we'll
Okay.
do that.
Thank you.
All right.
That reminds me, something we didn't,
Right.
offer us as
Right.
services and support from our office is, if you have anything going on at your church and you need some support in your pastor relationship and things like that, we can leverage our, relationships either with the pastor or maybe the archdiocese and different things like that. So if you have anything that you just want to bounce off of us and let us know how we can support you in different areas that you might need.
What we've done is we've actually met with many different pastors, just talk about what we've done statewide, then talk locally of what we've done, and just to ensure that we have a great relationship with them. So there's various things we can do. So.
Any other questions?
So can I ask you a question? How many folks are new conference presidents? Just, can you raise your hand? There you go. We got 1, 2, 3. We have some seasoned veterans in here. I think they're spying on us. Jennifer? All right. Okay, Betty, that's right. I met you, Betty, right? So,
Yeah, I think
So-
Knox is not brand new, but he in the last 2 years
Right.
probably.
yeah. So as in your new position, has something come up that has perplexed you? Betty, you have to go off mute.
This is Marsha. Can I
Okay.
get Ron's email address so I can email him about the couch?
Linda Garant? Sure.
You
We'll
said
send-
Ron.
Linda Garant. We'll
Oh,
send,
Linda. Okay.
Linda.
I'm sorry, Linda.
which, by
Okay.
the way, do all of you get the society page?
Yes.
If you do, I think, what is it, Amanda? The last page on the society page is contact information for all the staff members.
You get the society page? Okay, thank you.
And I think, Amanda, do we also have it on our member website?
I don't know if it's in the member website, but it's on the general website, under ways to give, and then donations. You can find out, or it has the phone number to reach Linda, and she's the one who schedules the truck.
Yeah, but we'll get it for you, Marcia.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Betty, you're off of mute, or sorry.
Yes, I am. You can hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, so are you St. Thomas the Apostle?
Right. Yes, I am. So I am new, really new. Okay. I'm new.
Welcome. Thank you.
And but you have a great pastor, right?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Because when we were at the meeting, he came to the meeting, he helped with the installation.
Yes, he did.
Um,
Yes, he did.
And so I think that's, in my mind, that's half the battle. If
Yeah.
you make sure that you stay close with him, tell him what you're doing, and he'll help you. I think that's does a lot.
Yes, but what I'm trying to do right now is trying to recruit. We need volunteers, and that is what I'm trying to do. When I go to church on Sunday, I would look around and see if there's anybody that I can talk to and see if I could get them to join up. So
Okay.
that's what I'm doing right now. Because we really need, volunteers.
That's great. But you need Vincentians.
True.
There's a difference.
That's true. True,
There's a
true.
difference. You need Vincentians, and this is where your pastor could also help you, because he talks to a lot of the parishioners, and a lot of times they're asking him for, how can I help? How can I grow spiritually?
That's true.
And,
Okay.
and
Never thought about
he can be a great recruiter for you.
Yes, I never thought about that. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something. I was membership coordinator for a number of years before I got involved as president, and I want to thank you for all the materials you put on recently. It's been very helpful, and it's been very easy to get somebody to take my place. So that was good. And I mean, I certainly couldn't do that as well. The other thing, and just to point to Betty, where I find informal conversations take place a lot are with all the other ministries. So if you have some men that are involved in the ministry as well, and they might be members, if you have a Knights of Columbus Council, that might be an opportunity. I know personally, we talk to members at the Knights of Columbus meetings. We have a men's club as well, Men of St. Bridget. We have conversations there at Bible study, at other, things like that. So I would encourage all your members to talk to folks that way, but always, and the way, and I was fortunate, I had a mentor, Bernie Gatos, so I was pretty fortunate. He was president for over 6 years, but the way he would approach people was always important. And that was making sure that people had the heart of Vincentian that he identified before it happened, before they joined. And they all come in, and I always used to say as membership coordinator, please join us for 2 or 3 meetings, and then we could talk, because I think they need to see what happens and before they kind of jump in all the way, because often if folks jump in, they jump out pretty quickly too.
True.
And Peter makes a good point. When I was conference president, I had a membership coordinator. And it helps you so that you don't take on all the burden of helping on board and helping getting somebody indoctrinated and talking with them. So, Peter, thanks for doing that. And it gives you a good view, right?
Yes, it
Of
did.
what's out there. So
Okay.
maybe you can get Blanca to help you with that, right?
Yes, she's
She used to be a force.
Yeah. She is. Okay, I'll do that, and maybe try other ministries, see who's in other ministries and see if we can talk to, if I can talk to some of those in the other ministries. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask is, Peter, at St. Bridget's, because we did this at St. Jude, is we made sure that there was a constant communication through our bulletins. That, we utilized the pastor to keep on. Somehow they would always throw a plug in for St. Vincent de Paul, and that always got interest in people. But again, it's not just getting people interested, it's bringing them in and then quickly getting them onboarded. It's a little bit of a process, because you want to make them feel like they're part of your society, they're part of the conference, and they want to try to contribute as fast as possible. They just don't want to observe. I mean, I'm sure you experienced that, Peter, right?
Yeah, actually, we are now because, you know, with the last couple of years and our virtual meetings, we have actually a new member. We had a meeting last night that was a Zoom meeting, and she's a pistol. So I'm looking forward to having her more and more involved quickly. And it's kind of neat, you know, to see some of that point of view. So I'm excited about that. It's kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, we have an announcement usually in the bulletin. We've often put stories in the bulletin about clients that we've assisted. And I'm excited that we have a ministry fair coming up. We haven't had that in a long time. So that's going to happen in November.
Oh, okay.
So Betty, anything we can do to help you?
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Another thing we didn't have in the slides, but and I know many of you are taking this on, you're new, but it's not ever too early to start your succession planning. So keep that in mind as you're recruiting new members as well. You know, think 3 years, 6 years from now, because it'll come around faster than you think.
Yeah, that's true.
The question, do you all have spiritual leaders, active spiritual leaders?
Yes.
Very important. Okay, good. You rely on them a lot too.
Mhm.
Does anybody have their vice president role vacant right now, or were you all able to appoint somebody?
I've got somebody. She's not in the meeting. She's not in the meeting, but she was supposed to. But I've got somebody.
Would you recommend the vice president role almost as being the potential the potential president of the future? Yeah.
Yes.
Typically your first vice president, you know, the secret is you can have multiple vice presidents.
Yeah.
And take on different types of responsibilities, especially if you have one that's for, you know, pantry and one that handles case numbers. But ultimately your first vice president should be somebody that you would think of for success. So.
Okay.
But you got a while to think about this, Peter.
Yeah.
About 5 minutes left. Thank you for sharing, and not just questions, but sharing some of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, can I say something to the lady that was talking about a pantry? Ask her with her church after she speak with her priest. See if she can do a brown bag drive with her parishioners. A brown bag drive, asking them to bring in food to help her pantry.
Good idea. I also, I don't know if I made it clear on that structural slide, you know, if you have best practice questions and things like that, you do have your district president. I know I said contact Jerry and I, but your district president is local and knows your conference probably better than we do, and past activities and things like that. So I encourage you to lean on that person, on that president. And they also sit on the council's board of directors. So they also have a different perspective, a larger scope of what's going on. So make sure you have a good relationship with your district president.
Yeah. They're expected to have at least one district meeting a quarter.
Yeah.
All right, well, if nothing else, I will reshare the slides real quick so we can pull up our closing prayer. And Jerry will lead us in prayer, and we thank you all for joining us and taking on this responsibility and this role, and we are here to support you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Both for sharing. Thank
That's
you.
right. Don't be strangers, right?
Okay. No, we won't. I won't.
Heavenly Father, inspired by your servant, Blessed Frederick and Saint Vincent, may we bear witness to your compassionate and liberating love. by serving your poor cheerfully and each other humbly on our path towards holiness in union with you, Lord Jesus. In the name of the Father, Son,
No, no, no.
Holy Spirit. God bless you. Have a great year.
God bless
Thank
you
you.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
The other lady in Florida.
I will be sending an
Yeah.
email to
To
all of you.
everybody.
Yeah. What's I don't know. Disconnect.